Wife's family laughed when I said I'd leave. So I left, and took half the family's inheritance with me. The moment that would change everything began with a simple dinner. Not just any dinner, one of those obligatory monthly gatherings at my in-laws' sprawling Victorian mansion that Sarah insisted we attend to keep the peace. Peace was always a fragile concept when it came to the Blackwood family. I adjusted my tie in the car mirror before stepping out, my fingers drumming nervously against the leather case containing my prototype designs. After nearly 2 years of late nights, countless failures, and dwindling savings, I had finally cracked it. A breakthrough in smart home technology that could revolutionize how people interacted with their living spaces. "You sure you want to mention it tonight?" Sarah asked, her hand resting lightly on my arm as we walked up the cobblestone path to her parents' front door. The evening sunlight caught in her auburn hair, reminding me why I'd fallen for her in the first place: warmth in a family of ice. "I've been keeping it secret for months," I replied, squeezing her hand. "Besides, your dad's connections in the tech industry could be invaluable for the final investor push." What I didn't say was how desperately I needed that push. My startup was running on fumes, our small team was working for promises rather than paychecks, and the prototype, while revolutionary, needed capital to become marketable. The dinner started as they always did. Robert Blackwood, my father-in-law, holding court at the head of the mahogany table, his silver hair perfectly coiffed, discussing his latest business conquest. Margaret, my mother-in-law, nodding along while surreptitiously checking her phone for messages from her society friends. Emily, Sarah's older sister, sat across from us, her husband Thomas beside her, both wearing expressions of rehearsed interest. Emily and I had never gotten along. Since the day Sarah had introduced me, a self-made engineer from a middle-class family with big dreams, but a modest bank account, Emily had made it clear I wasn't Blackwood material. She'd inherited her father's business acumen and her mother's social climbing, wrapped in a package of calculated charm and designer clothes. "So Daniel," Robert's voice boomed across the table, as the housekeeper cleared the main course plates. "Sarah tells me you've been burning the midnight oil on some new gadget." The table fell silent. This was my moment. "It's a bit more than a gadget," I said, pulling out my tablet and bringing up the schematics. "I call it Home Harmony. It's a centralized smart home system, but with a difference." I explained how current smart home systems were fragmented, requiring multiple apps and platforms. Home Harmony used a proprietary algorithm to create a seamless experience. Lights, security, climate control, entertainment, even appliances, all responding not just to voice commands but learning patterns and anticipating needs. "The real breakthrough is the adaptive learning matrix," I continued, warming to my subject. "It can differentiate between household members, customize environments based on mood detection, and even adjust to seasonal changes, without manual reprogramming." Robert leaned forward, genuine interest flickering in his eyes. "What's your market entry strategy?" "I've got patents pending on the core technology," I said. "The prototype is functional, but we need about $500,000 for the final development push and manufacturing setup." "Fascinating," Emily interrupted, her voice dripping with sweetness that never reached her eyes. "So it's like Alexa or Google Home, but fancier?" I felt my jaw tighten. "It's an entirely different architecture. The current market leaders are essentially voice-activated search engines, with limited home control. Home Harmony—" "I think it sounds brilliant," Sarah cut in, her hand finding mine under the table. "Daniel's team has created something that could change how we interact with our homes completely." Emily's smile tightened, a flash of something jealousy, resentment, crossing her features before she masked it with a tinkling laugh. "Well, wouldn't that be something? Another tech wonder to make our lives even more dependent on gadgets." The conversation shifted to safer topics. Thomas's golf game, Margaret's charity auction. But I couldn't shake the unease that settled over me. Throughout dessert I caught Emily studying my tablet where I'd left it on the table, her eyes calculating. When I reached for it, she quickly looked away, engaged in animated conversation with her father. Later, as we gathered in the living room for after-dinner drinks, Robert pulled me aside. "You might have something there, son," he said, swirling his scotch. "Send me the business plan. I've got some contacts at venture capital firms who might be interested." Hope surged through me. Robert's endorsement could open doors I'd been knocking on for months. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate that." "Don't thank me yet," he chuckled. If it's as good as you say, it's a sound investment opportunity. But remember, ideas are fragile things in this industry. Guard it well until you have those patents locked down. If only I'd recognized the warning for what it was. The drive home was filled with cautious optimism. Sarah was excited, planning how we'd use the investment, already talking about moving out of our cramped apartment, perhaps starting a family once the company was stable. Emily seemed interested in your project, she mentioned as we turned onto our street. Interested in dismissing it, I countered, still stinging from her reduction of my life's work to a fancy Alexa. Sarah sighed. That's just Emily. She's always been competitive with anything I care about. And she cares about you, so. She trailed off, but the unspoken history hung between us. Emily's pattern of wanting what Sarah had, from toys as children to boyfriends as teenagers. Well, she can find her own revolutionary smart home system, I joked, pulling into our parking spot. This one's taken. That night I couldn't sleep. Excitement about Robert's potential backing mixed with nagging concern about Emily's calculated interest. I slipped out of bed and spent hours refining my presentation for the investors Robert would connect me with, adding layers of detail to the proprietary elements that made Home Harmony unique. What I didn't know then was that across town Emily wasn't sleeping either. She was on the phone with a patent attorney she knew, describing in careful detail the exact system I'd outlined at dinner. The system I'd poured my heart and soul into creating. The system that was supposed to be my legacy. The wheels of betrayal were already in motion, silent and devastating as an avalanche before it breaks the surface. By the time I heard the rumble, it would be too late to run. But in that moment, in our small apartment, with Sarah sleeping peacefully and my designs glowing on the screen before me, I still believed in the future I was building. I still trusted that hard work and innovation would win the day. And perhaps most naively of all, I still believed that family meant something. 3 weeks after the fateful dinner, I was riding high. Robert had come through with investor contacts, and our first meetings had gone exceptionally well. My small team was energized, working around the clock to polish the Home Harmony interface. We'd secured office space in a tech incubator downtown. Nothing fancy, but a massive step up from my garage. Sarah had even started looking at houses in neighborhoods we previously could only drive through and admire. The morning everything changed started like any other. I arrived at the office early, coffee in hand, nodding hello to Raj and May, my lead developers, who were already hunched over their keyboards, debugging code. We're getting close, May said, not looking up from her screen. The voice recognition module finally stopped confusing similar commands. I smiled, setting my bag down. Perfect timing, the final investor meeting is next week. The office door swung open. A courier stood there, manila envelope in hand. Daniel Parker? That's me. He thrust the envelope forward. You've been served. The room fell silent as I tore open the envelope with shaking hands. Legal jargon swam before my eyes, but certain phrases stood out in stark relief. Patent infringement, cease and desist, intellectual property violation. And there, at the bottom of the letter, was the name of the patent holder. MTech Solutions, LLC. Emily Blackwood, CEO. This has to be a mistake, I whispered, but deep down I knew it wasn't. The dinner, the too sweet smile. The calculating look as she studied my tablet. I called Sarah immediately. Did you know about this? The accusation in my voice was unfair, but shock had overridden my better judgment. Know about what? Her confusion seemed genuine. When I explained, her gasp echoed through the phone. That's impossible. Emily would check the patent office database, I interrupted. Patent numbers in the letter. I heard keyboard clicks, then a long silence. Oh my God, Daniel. It was filed the day after our dinner. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Emily hadn't wasted a single day. I canceled my meetings and drove straight to the Blackwood mansion, Sarah meeting me there. Emily's car sat in the circular driveway, gleaming in the sunlight like a taunt. The housekeeper led us to the back patio, where Emily sat sipping iced tea, large sunglasses hiding her eyes, a self-satisfied smile playing at her lips. Daniel, Sarah, she greeted us coolly. This is unexpected. I slammed the cease and desist letter on the table. What the hell is this, Emily? She removed her sunglasses slowly. Business. Nothing personal. Nothing personal? Sarah's voice cracked with emotion. You stole Daniel's idea. An idea he's worked on for years. Emily's smile didn't waver. Ideas aren't protected, execution is. And I executed faster. She leaned forward. You should be thanking me. Your little garage operation would have floundered in the market. I have the connections, the capital, and the team to make this concept successful. It's not your concept to make successful, I hissed. The patent office disagrees. She sipped her tea. Look, I'm not unreasonable. I'll give you a consultant position at MTech. You can help develop my vision for home harmony. Your vision, the rage building inside me threatened to explode. With a modest salary and say 2% equity. She continued as if I hadn't spoken. That's generous, considering your limited contributions. Sarah stepped forward, fists clenched. How could you do this? To your own sister? To family? Emily's expression hardened. Family? Dad's been grooming you as his successor since we were kids, despite my better grades, better business sense, better everything. He's given you opportunities I've had to claw and fight for. She turned to me. And you, coming in with your brilliant idea, ready to be the next tech darling? Not happening. You won't get away with this, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. Emily laughed, the sound like breaking glass. I already have. Check the patent, it's comprehensive. My lawyers made sure of it. She stood gathering her things. You have two options. Join MTech on my terms or shut down your operation. Either way, home harmony is mine now. She brushed past us, pausing at the patio door.
Oh, and Sarah? Mom wants to know if you're still coming to the charity gala next weekend.
Family obligations and all. With that parting shot, she disappeared into the house. Sarah collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand. She's my sister. How could she? I knelt beside her, my own shock giving way to a numb resignation. What do we do now? That night, after reviewing the patent with a lawyer friend, who confirmed the worst, Emily's filing was indeed comprehensive, covering the core technology and methodology of home harmony. I sat in our darkened apartment staring at my prototype. Sarah watched me from the doorway. We'll fight this, she said, determination hardening her voice. We'll take her to court. With what money? I asked hollowly. Your sister has the Blackwood fortune behind her. We'd be bankrupted before the first hearing. Then my father called me this afternoon. The memory of that conversation still stung. He says it's unfortunate but ultimately just business. He won't intervene. Sarah sank down beside me, taking my hands in hers. So that's it. Emily wins? She steals your dream and we just accept it? I looked at the device that represented years of my life, my passion, my future. In that moment I felt something inside me crumble, giving way to an overwhelming sense of defeat. I don't know what else to do, I admitted, the words tasting like ash. The days following Emily's betrayal blurred together in a haze of despair. I had to lay off my small team, watching their faces fall as I explained the situation. Raj and May offered to work for free until we found a solution, but I couldn't do that to them. They had families, bills, futures that shouldn't be sacrificed because I'd been naive enough to trust family. Our apartment, once a place of creativity and hope, became a tomb of crushed dreams. I barely left the couch, mindlessly scrolling through tech news, flinching each time I saw another announcement about MTech Solutions' innovative new smart home system. Emily was moving fast, leveraging her father's connections to secure manufacturing partnerships, hiring marketing teams, poaching developers from established tech giants. Sarah tried to be supportive, but tension crackled between us. She called her father daily, pleading with him to intervene, but Robert Blackwood maintained that business was business. When she finally snapped and told him she was cutting ties with the family if they continued supporting Emily's theft, he simply sighed and reminded her of her trust fund conditions, family loyalty above all. They're using our inheritance as leverage, she told me one night, tears streaming down her face. Dad said if I support you in fighting this, I'll be disinherited. Can you believe that? My own family. I couldn't bear seeing her torn between me and the family that had shaped her entire life. Maybe you should just stay out of it, I suggested, hating the defeated tone in my voice. This is between me and Emily now. Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. No, what she did affects both of us. Our future. What future? I laughed bitterly. Your sister stole everything I've worked for. The investors have all backed out. The office is closed. I'm back to square one. No, worse than square one. I'm in debt with nothing to show for it. So that's it? You're just giving up? Her voice cracked. The Daniel I married wouldn't surrender without a fight. Her words stung because they were true. I had given up. The weight of betrayal, the legal mountain before me. The humiliation, it had crushed something vital inside me. That night, after Sarah had gone to bed, I sat alone in the darkness of our cramped home office. The Home Harmony prototype sat on my desk, its sleek design mocking me. I considered smashing it, this physical reminder of failure. When my phone buzzed with a notification, it was a tech blog I followed. The headline made my stomach clench. M-Tech Solutions announces Home Harmony launch date. Revolutionary smart home system set to disrupt market. I clicked on the article, a masochistic impulse driving me. There was Emily smiling confidently at a press conference, describing features I had designed as if they were her own brilliant insights. The article quoted her, "Home Harmony represents the future of smart home technology, an intuitive system that understands and anticipates users' needs like never before." My words. My vision. My future. Something snapped inside me, not in the way fragile things break, but in the way a switch flips, illuminating what was previously dark. I grabbed the prototype, turning it over in my hands. The elegant shell housed complex circuitry that represented hundreds of hours of problem solving. Emily might have stolen the concept, but she couldn't steal the mind that had created it. What if I didn't fight to reclaim Home Harmony, but instead transcended it? I booted up my computer and pulled up the original schematics. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I opened a new file. The basics of Home Harmony, the user interface, the central hub design, the standard integration protocols. These were what Emily had stolen, but the soul of the system, the complex algorithms that made it truly revolutionary, those existed primarily in my mind and in code I'd never fully documented in the materials I'd brought to dinner. As dawn broke, I was still working, energized by a new vision. What if Home Harmony wasn't the end goal but merely the foundation? What if I could build something so advanced that Emily's stolen system would look like a child's toy in comparison? I texted Raj and May, "Need to meet." New project. Bigger than before. They responded immediately, as if they'd been waiting for this signal all along. When Sarah woke, she found me showered, dressed and making breakfast for the first time in days. "What happened to you?" she asked, eyes wide with surprise. I handed her a cup of coffee. "I found my fight." "You're going after Emily legally after all?" I shook my head. "Better. I'm going to make her regret stealing an obsolete version of what I'm capable of creating." Sarah looked skeptical. "Daniel, the patent covers Home Harmony version 1.00, I interrupted. Excitement building in my voice. "But version 2.00? That's going to be something else entirely." "What are you talking about?" I took her hands. "Home Harmony was designed to adapt to people's patterns, right? But what if we could make a system that doesn't just adapt, it evolves? What if we could create an ecosystem that learns, grows, and transforms the very concept of what a home can be?" A slow smile spread across Sarah's face. "You're serious about this?" "Dead serious. Emily thinks she won by stealing yesterday's news. Let her have it. While she's busy launching Home Harmony, we'll be building something that makes it look like a relic." For the first time in days, hope flickered in her eyes. You're bringing me into the company? If you want in, your marketing background would be invaluable." She pulled me into a fierce hug. "I'm all in. And Daniel?" She pulled back to look me in the eyes. "This time we trust no one outside our core team. Especially not my family." The weight that had been crushing me transformed into a different kind of pressure. The pressure of possibility, of potential energy waiting to be unleashed. Emily had no idea what she had done. In trying to steal my success, she had inadvertently set me free from constraints I hadn't even recognized. The original Home Harmony was good, but its design had been limited by what I thought was possible, marketable, achievable. Now, with nothing left to lose, those limitations were gone. And in their place was something far more powerful than a smart home system: determination, righteous anger, and the burning desire to prove that stealing an idea is one thing but the creative mind behind it. That was something Emily could never take from me. We needed absolute secrecy. Emily had spies everywhere, in the tech community, among potential investors, and certainly within the Blackwood family circle. Sarah and I found a rundown warehouse space in an industrial district on the opposite side of the city from the gleaming M-Tech headquarters. Emily had established. The rent was cheap, the security was good, and most importantly, no one would think to look for us there. "Home sweet home," I said, gesturing around the dusty space with exposed pipes and concrete floors. Raj and May exchanged skeptical glances but nodded gamely. "It's perfect," Sarah declared, already sketching out floor plans on her tablet. No windows for prying eyes, multiple exit points, and enough space for the lab and testing environments. We established new security protocols that would make the agency proud. Burner phones. Code names for the project. We settled on Phoenix for obvious symbolic reasons. No cloud storage, everything kept on air-gapped systems. Team members signed NDAs so airtight our lawyer friend whistled when he reviewed them. "So what exactly are we building?" Raj asked one night as we huddled around a makeshift conference table fashioned from wooden pallets and an old door. I pulled out fresh schematics. "We're building the future, where home harmony had been designed as a central hub with peripheral connections. Phoenix would be a true ecosystem, decentralized, adaptive, and with a learning matrix that evolved over time. Home harmony could adjust room temperature based on user preferences. Phoenix would analyze hundreds of environmental factors to optimize not just comfort but energy efficiency, health benefits, and even mood enhancement. The key differentiator is the neural adaptation framework," I explained, drawing rapid diagrams as the team leaned in. "Emily's stolen version relies on fixed algorithms. Phoenix will use deep learning to create entirely new responses to environmental changes and user behaviors." "That's ambitious," Mee said carefully. "The processing power alone would require a completely new type of hardware architecture," I finished for her. "Which is why we're building that too." Their eyes widened. This wasn't just a software upgrade, it was a fundamental reimagining of smart home technology from the ground up. Days turned into weeks. We worked around the clock, fueled by determination and the sweet anticipation of Emily's reaction when she realized what we'd done. Sarah tapped former marketing colleagues, who owed her favors, building a stealth campaign that would launch precisely when we were ready. She also took a job at a design firm to help cover our living expenses and keep up appearances. The financial strain was considerable. I sold my car, liquidated my 401k, and we downsized to a tiny apartment to fund the prototype development. When that wasn't enough, we found an angel investor, a tech veteran with a personal grudge against the Blackwood business empire, who was delighted to back what he called the ultimate comeuppance project. Meanwhile, Emily's Home Harmony launched with tremendous fanfare. The business press lavished praise on the visionary female founder disrupting the smart home industry. She gave interviews describing her lifelong passion for technology integration. Each headline was a twist of the knife, but also fuel for our fire. 3 months into development, we hit a major technical roadblock. The neural framework kept overloading the processing units, causing system-wide failures. "We need to scale back," Raj argued during a tense late-night meeting. "The market isn't ready for this level of integration anyway." "No," I said firmly. "Scaling back is exactly what Emily would expect if she knew what we were doing. We need to push forward." Mee had been silently scribbling in her notebook during our debate. She looked up suddenly. "What if we distribute the processing load? Not just across the system but temporarily?" "Explain," Sarah prompted. "Instead of trying to process everything in real time, we create prediction models that pre-process likely scenarios during low usage periods. The system would be constantly preparing for future demands rather than just responding to current ones." It was brilliant, unexpected, a complete departure from how smart systems typically functioned. "That's not just an improvement," I said slowly, excitement building. "That's a paradigm shift." The breakthrough energized the team. We worked with renewed vigor, refining the predictive processing concept until it became the cornerstone of Phoenix's architecture. While Emily's Home Harmony would respond to commands and adapt to patterns, our system would anticipate needs before they were even expressed. 6 months after Emily's betrayal, we had a working prototype. The moment it successfully completed its first full home simulation, managing everything from security to entertainment to health monitoring with predictive accuracy that bordered on prescient, we all stood in stunned silence. "We did it," May whispered, breaking the spell. Sarah squeezed my hand. "No," she said, "you did it." That night, as the team celebrated, I received an unexpected text from my father-in-law. "Emily's system is having issues. Major client complaints about response lag and integration failures. Thought you might want to know." I showed Sarah the message. "Your father's reaching out." "Why?" She studied the text, frowning. "He's hedging his bets. Dad never puts all his eggs in one basket. If Emily's system is failing and he suspects you're working on something new, he wants to stay connected to the potential winner," I finished. "Should we respond?" Sarah deleted the message. "No, he made his choice when he backed Emily. Let him wonder." The next day, we finalized our launch strategy. While Emily had gone big with press releases and media tours, we would go targeted, reaching specific influencers, tech reviewers, and potential corporate clients who could immediately understand the revolutionary nature of what we'd built. "We're not just launching a product," I told the team. "We're launching a new category." Sarah nodded. "And the best part? Emily won't see us coming until it's too late." I looked around at our scrappy headquarters, at the dedicated team that had believed in this vision enough to risk everything. What had started as revenge had evolved into something far more meaningful. True innovation born from the crucible of betrayal. The countdown to launch began. Phoenix was ready to rise from the ashes of Home Harmony. Tech conferences are theatrical by design. Spotlights, dramatic music, charismatic CEOs pacing stages while revealing the next big thing. The annual Smart Home Summit was no different, and MTech Solutions had the prime speaking slot. Sarah and I sat in the back row of the packed auditorium, baseball caps pulled low, watching Emily stride onto the stage to thunderous applause. For someone whose product was reportedly having issues, she appeared supremely confident. "Last year I shared my vision for a truly integrated smart home experience," she began, her voice echoing through the hall. "Today I'm proud to announce Home Harmony 2.0, addressing the minor stability issues some users experienced with our groundbreaking first release." Minor issues. According to our intelligence, retailers had been processing returns at unprecedented rates, and their customer service department was overwhelmed with complaints. "She's doing damage control," Sarah whispered, her fingers intertwined tightly with mine. "And making promises she can't keep," I added, recognizing several features Emily was describing as technically impossible with Home Harmony's architecture. As the presentation continued, I felt an unexpected emotion. Pity. Emily was scrambling, promising upgrades that would take months if not years to implement, positioning critical flaws as features planned for enhancement. She didn't understand the technology well enough to know she was painting herself into a corner. "Ready?" Sarah asked, as Emily wrapped up her presentation to polite but noticeably restrained applause. I nodded, slipping out a side door while Emily fielded questions from increasingly skeptical tech journalists. We made our way to a smaller conference room where Raj and May were making final preparations. 50 key influencers, journalists, and industry experts had received mysterious invitations to an exclusive unveiling immediately following the main presentations. "Everyone confirmed?" I asked, adjusting my tie. May nodded. "And then some. Word got out. We're overbooked." The room filled quickly, curious attendees whispering about the secretive startup that had managed to create such buzz. I recognized faces from major tech publications, venture capital firms, and even competitors. In the back, trying to be inconspicuous, stood Robert Blackwood. Sarah saw him too. "Dad's here," she whispered, tension in her voice. "Good. Let him see what happens when you bet on the wrong horse." At precisely 3 p.m., the lights dimmed. I stepped onto the small stage, heart pounding. "Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Parker, founder of Parker Innovation Labs." No mention of Home Harmony or the theft. We'd agreed to take the high road publicly. "Today we're introducing a system that doesn't just improve upon existing smart home technology. It fundamentally reimagines it." The next 20 minutes were the most satisfying of my professional life. With each feature demonstration, The audience's reactions intensified, from polite interest to surprised murmurs to audible gasps when we revealed the predictive processing framework. When May demonstrated how Phoenix had already prepared the perfect ambient settings for the presentation based on audience composition, time of day, and even the slightly elevated room temperature from the crowded space, a prominent tech blogger actually stood up in excitement. "This isn't an evolution in smart home technology," I concluded. "It's a revolution, and it ships next month." The room erupted. Journalists rushed forward with questions, investors pulled out business cards, and competitors whispered urgently into phones. Through the chaos, I saw Robert Blackwood's face, a mixture of shock and calculation before he slipped out the door. We'd barely finished the first round of interviews when the conference room door burst open. Emily stood there, face flushed, a PR representative trying desperately to pull her back. "You," she hissed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "What do you think you're doing?" The room fell silent. Dozens of phones rose to capture the confrontation. "Hello, Emily," I said calmly. "Enjoying the conference?" She marched forward, lowering her voice but not her intensity. "This is patent infringement. I'll sue you into oblivion." "Perhaps you should review our technical specifications first," I suggested, loud enough for the nearest journalists to hear. "Phoenix operates on entirely different principles than home harmony. Your patent doesn't apply. You stole my concept." The irony was so thick it almost choked me. "Did I? That's an interesting accusation." Sarah stepped forward. "Emily, you might want to continue this conversation privately." "Stay out of this, traitor," Emily snapped. "You chose him over your own family." A tech journalist edged closer. "Ms. Blackwood, are you suggesting there's a previous connection between Emtech and Parker Innovation?" Emily's eyes widened as she realized her mistake. The room was watching, recording, taking notes. "I'm simply pointing out the suspicious timing." She recovered, professional smile back in place. "Curious how Mr. Parker vanished from the industry after our launch, only to reappear with a remarkably similar concept." "Similar?" called out a prominent reviewer who'd been testing both systems. "From what I've seen, Phoenix makes home harmony look like a flip phone competing with a quantum computer." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Emily's smile tightened to a grimace. "If you'll excuse me," she said stiffly, "I have a company to run." As she turned to leave, I couldn't resist. "Emily," I called after her. "I should thank you." She froze. "If you hadn't inspired me to start fresh, Phoenix would never have existed. Sometimes the best innovations come from the greatest challenges." Her face contorted with fury and humiliation as she realized what I was doing, publicly crediting her betrayal for my success while revealing nothing that could legally implicate her. It was the perfect revenge, transforming her treachery into a stepping stone for my triumph. Without another word, she stormed out, nearly knocking over a server carrying champagne for our impromptu celebration. As the door slammed behind her, Sarah slipped her arm around my waist. "That," she whispered, "was even better than I imagined." The aftermath was swift and decisive. By evening, tech sites were running side-by-side comparisons of Phoenix and home harmony, with headlines like "David Slay's Goliath," "Startup outshines industry heavyweight," and "Emtech's innovation already obsolete." But the most satisfying moment came when, exiting the conference center, we spotted Emily in an intense argument with her father in the parking lot. Robert Blackwood's face was thunderous as he jabbed a finger at his daughter, then at a tablet displaying what appeared to be Emtech's plummeting stock price. "I almost feel sorry for her," Sarah murmured. I thought about the months of despair, the financial hardship, the betrayal by people who should have been family. "Almost," I agreed, "but not quite." The weeks following the Smart Home Summit were a whirlwind. Phoenix pre-orders shattered our projections, forcing us to quickly scale up manufacturing capabilities. Venture capital firms that had previously ignored my emails were now practically begging for meetings. Our scrappy warehouse headquarters became too small almost overnight, and we leased 3 adjacent units to accommodate our rapidly expanding team. Emily, however, wasn't going down without a fight. True to form, Emtech filed a lawsuit alleging patent infringement, trade secret theft, and several other dubious claims. The manila envelope that arrived at our office brought a sense of déjà vu, but this time, I smiled as I read the legal threats. "They're desperate," our newly hired legal counsel explained during an emergency meeting. The patent claims won't hold up. Phoenix's architecture is fundamentally different from Home Harmony. They're hoping to slow you down with legal procedures, while they try to catch up technologically. How long can they drag this out? Sarah asked, concern etching her features. With Blackwood money behind them? Potentially years, the lawyer admitted. But we can file for summary judgment given the clear technical differences, and meanwhile, there's nothing stopping you from proceeding with business as usual. 2 days later, I received an unexpected call from Robert Blackwood. His voice sounded tired, aged beyond the few months since I'd last spoken with him. We should talk, he said, without preamble. Privately. The meeting was set for neutral ground. A private room at a downtown members club. Sarah insisted on accompanying me, despite my assurances that I could handle her father. We face him together, she said firmly. That's what partners do. Robert looked diminished somehow when we entered the room. The commanding presence that had dominated family dinners was muted, his shoulders slightly stooped beneath his impeccably tailored suit. Thank you for coming, he said, gesturing to the chairs across from him. No handshakes, no pleasantries. What's this about, Dad? Sarah asked, her voice cool but not hostile. Robert sighed, steepling his fingers. MTech is in trouble, serious trouble. Pre-orders have been cancelled en masse. Early adopters are returning units. The stock has dropped 40% since your demonstration. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. Not sorry at all. But I'm not sure why you're telling us this. I'm telling you because Emily won't drop the lawsuit. His eyes locked with mine. She's convinced herself that you stole something from her, that your success is rightfully hers. The board wants to cut their losses and move on, but she's fixated. That sounds like an MTech problem, not a Parker innovation problem, Sarah responded. Robert nodded. It is, but it's also a family problem. Family? Sarah's laugh was brittle. You mean the family that backed Emily when she stole Daniel's work? The family that threatened to disinherit me if I stood by my husband? That family? I made a mistake, Robert said quietly. The admission hung in the air, unexpected and weighty. I believed Emily when she came to me claiming she'd been developing Home Harmony for months. By the time I realized the truth, investments had been made, announcements released. I was trapped by my own decisions. The explanation wasn't enough. Not by a long shot, but it was more than I'd expected. What do you want from us? I asked directly. Drop your countersuit. We'd filed it just yesterday. A massive claim for damages based on Emily's initial theft and subsequent market interference. Why would we do that? Sarah demanded. After everything she's done? Because MTech is imploding, Robert said bluntly. With or without your lawsuit, the company won't survive the year. The Blackwood family stands to lose millions. Your inheritance included, Sarah. I don't care about the money, she shot back. Maybe not, but your mother does. This could devastate her foundation work, her social standing, and Emily, he hesitated. Emily's mental health is deteriorating. This obsession with defeating you is consuming her. I studied Robert's face, searching for manipulation, finding only exhaustion. What are you offering in exchange? MTech withdraws their lawsuit. Emily steps down as CEO. The company pivots away from smart home technology completely. You'll have no competition from us ever again. And, I pressed, sensing there was more. Robert opened his briefcase and removed a document. Full admission of patent malfeasance. Emily confesses to filing based on your intellectual property, not her own work. Not public, but enough to invalidate her patent claims permanently. It was more than we could have hoped for legally, a complete surrender wrapped in a confidential package that would protect both families' public reputations. Why would Emily agree to this? Sarah asked, voice suspicious. Because I've given her an ultimatum, Robert replied. Sign these papers, or I withdraw all Blackwood funding from MTech immediately. The company collapses. She faces potential criminal charges for patent fraud, and her career is over. The ruthlessness was pure Robert Blackwood, the same cutthroat business acumen that had built his empire, now turned against his own daughter. Sarah and I exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between us. What Emily had done was unforgivable, but endless legal battles would only drain resources better spent building Phoenix. We'll consider it, I said finally. But I want one more thing. Robert raised an eyebrow. Name it. Emily apologizes to Sarah, in person, for what she did to her sister, not to me or the company, to her family. It was the one thing I knew Emily would find most difficult, admitting she'd wronged her sister out of jealousy and spite. Robert nodded slowly. I'll make it happen. The apology came 3 days later. It was stiff, rehearsed and clearly coerced, but Sarah accepted it with a grace I couldn't have managed. The legal documents were signed, notarized, and filed. Emtek announced a strategic restructuring away from consumer technology, and Emily took an extended leave of absence for personal reasons. 6 months later, Phoenix had captured 40% of the premium smart home market. Our valuation soared past $500 million, with analysts projecting billion-dollar status within 2 years. The warehouse headquarters had been replaced by proper offices with views of the city skyline, the same skyline visible from Emtek's now downsized operations. On the anniversary of that fateful family dinner, Sarah and I hosted a celebration for our team. As champagne flowed and achievements were toasted, she pulled me aside onto the office balcony. I got some news today, she said, her expression unreadable. My grandmother's trust matured. Dad couldn't block it. It came directly to me. How much? Half the Blackwood family inheritance. Apparently, Grandma Blackwood foresaw family squabbles and divided it equally between Emily and me in trust that neither Dad nor we could touch until now. The irony was perfect. Emily's betrayal had cost her company, her reputation, and now, indirectly, half her expected inheritance. What will you do with it? I asked. Sarah smiled, looking out over the city. Invest in us. In Phoenix. In whatever comes next. I wrapped my arm around her waist. Not bad for a guy whose idea got stolen. Not bad for us, she corrected, leaning against me. The family they didn't believe in. Below us, our team celebrated, our company thrived, and somewhere across town, a family learned the hard way that betrayal has consequences. But here, in this moment, there was only victory. Sweeter for having been born from defeat, stronger for having been forged in fire. The Phoenix had risen, and this was just the beginning.